probably be best described as super annoying that the Browns are 1-4 and yet still somehow represent precisely the opposite of the matchup that you'd want this weekend. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers presented by FanDuel. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Steelers versus Browns is a 1:02 p.m. kickoff Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. And as soon as that football flies, the name of the game for the Steelers, I think, will be overcoming their specific greatest shortcoming on either side of the ball, because that's who they'll be facing. Let me explain what I mean by that. Steelers, we can all agree, have had their greatest difficulty on offense when it comes to running the ball and all related facets of running the ball, except the part where you have a really good running back in Jaylen Warren. Well, the Browns and the Jim Schwartz-led defense aren't giving up much of anything. In fact, their run defense is number one in the NFL, allowing only 75.6 yards per game. Number one. And just in case you think there's some easy workaround, their passing defense is number 4 in the NFL, allowing only 172.2 yards per game. So whatever it is that you get, you're going to have to earn it. And you're going to have to earn it in the very, very old-fashioned way. You're going to have to blow people off the ball. You're going to have to create holes that hadn't been getting created really at all before the game in Dublin against the Vikings. And you'd better believe you're going to have to continue operating with the offense that has Spencer Anderson on the field as the extra lineman, that has Darnell Washington out there for almost every snap, because this wouldn't be the time or the place to change that. It's not just about Myles Garrett. I keep seeing, hearing, and reading about how the Steelers going to contain Garrett. How are they going to keep him from wrecking? It's not just him. I mean, not to downplay him. He's got his usual DPOY level credentials about him, including 4 sacks, 8 tackles for losses, 21 total tackles in the Browns' 5 games. Isaiah McGuire, on the other end, has a sack and 4 tackles for losses, 11 total tackles himself, a forced fumble. Really good football player. He'll probably be Troy Fautanu's challenge, but everyone's going to have one of those. And in some cases, they're going to need help. Garrett can move all across the Cleveland line. He does that naturally. It doesn't feel forced when it happens. But I could still see Broderick Jones needing Darnell on that side of the ball, and everybody having to maintain an awareness of where Garrett is to an extent, but only to an extent. Please understand, I'm not puffing these guys up. There's nothing I enjoy more in talking about football than finding a way to denigrate the Browns. But you can't do that when it comes to their defense. That's not trying to make sure you're not overlooking them or anything. It's an actual fact. They're very, very good on that side. Doubly so up front. And if the Steelers, not just Warren, but also Kenny Gainwell, Caleb Johnson, Jonnu Smith, to the extent that I'm expecting, hoping really that he gets involved, if they are to get stuff done offensively against this group, it's a feather and a half, my friends. I can promise you I won't be saying any such thing next week when we're doing this show from Cincinnati. No chance. This is different. This is a peak challenge for this group, collectively. Now, I say all that, and you can come right back at me with, well, yeah, but they're terrible on offense, and that could more than make up for it. But I'd even counter that at least a little bit. Listen, Dylan Gabriel's a very young, very inexperienced rookie at quarterback, and he's only appeared in 3 of the Browns' games. But when he has, he's done well enough for what it's worth to take the starting job, to make Joe Flacco deemed, at least by management, to be expendable. And more specifically, he's completed 22 out of 37 passes for 209 yards. That's a pretty healthy 59.5 completion rate. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And you know what? Somewhat intangibly, when you watch him play, you see the left-handed release, you see some of the dynamism, but more than anything, and this is the stuff that I've been picking up on from the direction of Cleveland, is that he's got poise. He's not somebody who's looking like he's blown away by the settings that he's in, which is always the one thing that you as a defense, when you're facing someone like that, hope to exploit more than anything else. Gabriel was the Browns' 3rd-round pick this summer out of Oregon. Their 2nd-round pick, also this summer, 36th overall, by the way, out of Ohio State, was Quinshon Judkins, and he's been that much more impressive. 347 yards this season on 72 carries. That's a 4.8 average. He's got a couple of touchdowns. He's also caught the ball 9 times for an additional 62 yards. And with each week that goes by, his numbers and his visible confidence only seem to be growing. He had 110 yards on 23 carries against the Vikings over in London just now. What's the Steelers' greatest shortcoming on the defensive side? That's right, pal. Struggling to stop the run. So this is one of those where you look at the standings and you see something, and then somebody's going to be tempted to say, something really archaic like, well, they're divisional rivals and therefore you can throw all the records out. No, that's not what this will be. This will be the Steelers facing their own flaws right in the mirror. And just as I applauded the Steelers for the way they handled the Vikings in Dublin, I would see this success on Sunday against this opponent for all the right reasons as representing another very real step forward for this football team. When we come back, J1Q. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Football season's finally here. Time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl? Lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on all the action. Today's J1Q comes from Luke, who says, "Hey, Dejan, what's the vibe of this team at this point in the season compared to what it was at the beginning of the year? Has it changed over the first 5 weeks at all? I'm curious to get your feel of the locker room." Luke, the change, if you want to describe it that way, really comes between weeks 3 and 4. If you think about the first 3 games that this team played, you can find certain things that you liked. You can find certain people that rose up as individuals. But you could also find a bunch who were being left behind. I don't have a better way to word it than that. The whole, moving train concept. These guys were, well, let's just call out some names here. Keanu Benton wasn't playing well. Peyton Wilson was on the cusp of losing his job. Patrick Queen was banged up. He was frustrated. He was frustrated not just by his own play, but also by what wasn't happening necessarily around him as the green dot guy in charge of making sure that everybody's hearing and heeding the various play calls. TJ Watt wasn't getting back there the way he wanted to. Nick Herbig was watching opponents run right at him. What is that, half the defense right there? I could do the same thing on the offense just by lumping the entire line together, but also pointing out that the tight ends haven't been anywhere near as involved as they'd want to be. There hasn't been running room, as I mentioned in the opening segment. Jaylen Warren looks like he's about to bust out, set back by injury. But then, and this is why I keep emphasizing how they played versus the result that ends up on the scoreboard. How they played in Dublin had all of them, well, almost all of them, feeling like, hey, yeah, this is it. This is what I should be doing out here. This is what this person next to me and that person over there should be doing. This is what it's supposed to look like. The only reason I say almost is because the tight ends really got buried in that game, other than Darnell Washington. But for the rest of them, the reaction was, I don't want to call it a 180, Luke, but it was really different than what we'd seen after the first 3 games, win or lose. And that's natural because you want to be able to see a path toward contention. You want to see a way that you can continue getting better and eventually get yourself to December and start really rolling. And until that happens, until you're part of it on the field when it happens, you're not going to have that. You can't manufacture it. You can't force it into your mind. You can't film watch your way into success. We're now into October. They need to start doing it, and they did it over there. And now they need to do it again, and I'm going to repeat this for effect, against an opponent that I see as being tougher for the Steelers to face than the Vikings were. There's going to have to be some real sacrifice made and left out on that football field. It's going to be physical, it's going to be punishing, and not just in the standard AFC North way. Because don't forget, those other guys, they know they're 1-4. And if they don't start bouncing back in some kind of form, 1-5 ain't going to do it. Now, you guys don't hear me talk a lot like this, where I'm building up a matchup to this degree. I just think that the various facets of these teams really align for this to be interesting. I appreciate the question, Luke. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We'll have a double shot today at 4 p.m. Eastern. And hopefully you'll check out all of the Steelers coverage that we offer around the clock on the DK Pittsburgh Sports app, which you can download for free onto your Apple or Android device if you want the discount on the premium level, which has no ads, full commenting, communicate with the reporters, all kinds of fun stuff. If you want that, email me directly, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com, so I can hook you up with an offer that I honestly believe nobody has said no to yet after they've emailed. I'm like the Deshaun Elliott of giving out discounts. Nobody gets past me. The email is dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. See you guys at 4.